Never mind. It looks like we're just going to jump straight into this one because I hit record and not the timer. So, welcome everybody to another episode of Microsoft Unboxed. This is episode 69, I believe. I am your host today, Cream Anderson. I'm joined by.
David Allen, hope everybody's doing well on our quick entry here. Be patient with me for just a second. I'm going to get a sip of water because I generally do that during our countdown.
Yes, I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Usually, you guys have a soothing countdown before my voice sorrows you, but this time I hit record and not putting us in the lobby for waiting. And I did that on purpose, accidentally, because I wanted to get us in and out, get you guys going on with your weekend. We have a lot of stuff to cover. Uh, there was actually quite a bit of Microsoft news. There's also, I think, my co-host and I, we didn't even talk about this off mic, but there was an
What did we
Apple event
miss?
the Apple event. We might
Oh,
touch
that
upon
well,
that. Yeah, that little thing.
it was so insequential that we just didn't notice it.
I think Apple would be upset with us if we cared for saying that, but I think it is true. I think a lot of people are kind of just saying, hey, a lot of Me Too products, and we'll see how it all performs. Nevertheless, let's talk about the Microsoft stuff that's in the news right now. We got Microsoft exploring an integration with Anthropic while still trying to figure out what it wants to do with its ex, OpenAI. Microsoft is also set to pay nearly $20 billion over the next 6 years to borrow or piggyback off of a third party AI infrastructure. We're going to talk about what that might mean for the future of AI, at least in the Microsoft world. Microsoft praises remote work while also asking people to come back to the office, making it almost mandatory to at least be in there 3 days a week. OpenAI and Microsoft, after the news of Anthropic integration curiosity, have come to a deal. I think this was late yesterday. They announced a new deal that allows the startup to plan for a for-profit restructuring. This has kind of been the contention the two have had over the last few months. We've had headlines about how they have not seen eye to eye, and OpenAI was close to hitting the nuclear option in order to break away from its contract in order to pursue a for-profit stance. It seems that the two have come to an agreement of some sorts. We'll go over whatever details we can. Spotify is rolling out a uh, lossless streaming for its platform. Finally, I think after 3 years threatening to do so, they're going to finally do it. So those of you who are audiophiles, you may really enjoy this. Windows Store is welcoming individual developers without fees. Finally, they test piloted this internationally. Now they're going to say, U.S. developers, please make your stuff and do it for free. We'll talk about whether or not they're 10 years too late for doing that. Microsoft 365 Copilot subscriptions to integrate sales, service, and finance solutions, which I thought was already something they were doing, but apparently there's a new, better way to do this. Then we'll talk about Xbox returning to Tokyo Games briefly. LG and Xbox Cloud are teaming up to put gaming in the car for anybody with a Tesla or any other type of model car that has a large screen somewhere in the middle of it. This might be key for you. And then we'll end on free play days because, as we were just talking with Mike, today is National Gaming Day. With that being said, is there anything you want to add before we jump into the stories?
I don't think so, except I do want to bring up a point that you said about Apple. I do feel like the fanfare this after this announcement is not the normal fanfare that we have normally seen, and haven't seen a whole lot about pre-order numbers and people complaining that the Apple Store is down. So maybe this one is insequential a little bit.
Speaking of which, let's just get into that one real quick, get it out of the way.
Okay, let's
Um,
do it.
yeah, let's talk about what Apple did in their awe-dropping event, is what they called it. They announced, predictably, a bunch of new phones, some headphone advancements for, I guess, the Apple's AirPods 3, I think what they're called now, AirPods Pro 3. Um, and they added the new series, Apple Watch Series 11, which brings 5G to these devices, and refines them a little bit, making the bezel a little bit smaller, making the I think the what is their giant one called? I forget what the name of that one is. Apple Watch Max. I don't know, whatever the bigger one is.
The
That one. Ultra. There we go. That sounds better. I don't know. Pro, Ultra. I guess it all sounds the same. Uh, was there anything from this event that at least stood out to you as like, hey, that's interesting. If I had some extra money, I would buy this.
The hearing aid technology in the AirPods was pretty good.
Okay.
The hypertension, which was, I saw a story just before we started this where the Apple Watch can detect hypertension, which is high blood pressure.
Hmm.
And that was certified by the FDA just this morning, according to what I saw. So that was neat. As far as the phone, we did see the Air, which was the thin phone, and I did see a report where some of the Apple folks doing these interviews and presentations encouraged people to bend the phone. So, I guess they're trying to show that it's durable and can take a beating and all that good stuff. But as far as anything new that we haven't seen from the way we report things, I didn't really see a whole lot of them. It did surprise me that the new AirPods are only $249. That was, a little lower than I thought. I figured $299, maybe $349 at best, because they've got the over the ear. I don't remember what they call those. The ones that are $500 that are over the ear that's got all those features in them. And I figured when they added the hearing aid features, that was going to push the pricing up. So I give them props for doing that. But somebody brought up that the fully loaded iPhone this year, if you went all out on the storage, was pushing $2,000. So I don't think you can necessarily complain about us folks over here on the Android side anymore willing to pay $1,700 for a folding phone. Hint, hint, Apple, where's it at?
The rumors are saying next year, but rumors have said that Apple is coming out of the car for like a decade. So,
But I didn't see anything that made me go, wow. It just felt like, okay, we got the spec bump, we added a few features. Tim says it's the greatest, biggest leap for the iPhone ever, which he says every year. So kind of mad at me. And I got a feeling, I haven't looked at Apple stocks, but I just got a feeling that it's going to be kind of meh this year as
which is
far as users
interesting
too.
because they introduced new designs. The new basic, or I guess the regular iPhone, has this new backing. They call it the plateau, which again, they always have to come up with stupid marketing names for changes that they make. But it's a new camera design on the back. You no longer have the corner pocket three lenses. It kind of does a
Look,
mix between the iPhone three corner
and the
pocket
Google Pixel.
and the Google Pixel, where it goes across the back. Now they did this for a specific reason, and I wonder if Samsung will follow. But basically, that section of the phone, which is the top third of it, is where all the components are at, which leaves the bottom two thirds just open for battery, which is their entire thing. So that was pretty cool as far as a bit of engineering. As far as the look of the phone, it's going to upset a lot of people because people were used to be able to get cases. All third party ecosystems are basically in line with the iPhone. You could swap in and out if you got a new phone. You just swap out the case that you really enjoyed that you've been using over the last couple of years. Now you're going to have to buy a new one. Uh, the phones also went back to aluminum, I believe, because they said it was a better conductor of heat. This is something you and I were
Mm.
talking about during the event. Apple put a lot of emphasis about heat control with
Thermals,
the
yes.
thermals, heat control, battery longevity, vapor chambers. They talked for a solid 5 or 10 minutes about it. And I was wondering, this is conspiratorial, that they are reaching the upper limits of their chip designs, and now heat's becoming an issue for them. Because again, I don't remember them emphasizing this or even changing strategies this quickly. Because I believe titanium was what the last 2 years was their new metal, their new feature thing that they were trying to emphasize. Now they're back to
Was.
aluminum, and that seems to be pretty drastic. Interesting enough, the Air, the finished phone, which is in line with the S25 Edge, is still titanium, I believe, right? Like, so that thing will have potentially worse battery life because it has a smaller battery and poor poor thermal management, all for the sake of being thin. Now, I have an S25 Edge. It doesn't have thermal issues because it runs roughly the same heat chambers and stuff like that, like everybody else. It's also slightly like a hair bigger, thicker than the new iPhone Air, while still maintaining a bigger battery and stuff like that. So it'll be interesting to see what compromises people on the Apple side will put up with in order to have the Air, or again, it's at least being slated that this will take place of the regular model or the plus model, I guess, whatever Apple had in that middle between. And presume that it'll be the same for Samsung in January when they introduce whatever second version of this is. That's it about the phones, roughly. I mean, it's a camera. Oh, and then they had this new camera design for the front-facing camera, which was like their big thing, is that they went from a circle sensor to a square, which allows you to pivot from landscape to portrait in your selfie mode without having to change the direction of the way you're holding the phone. I don't think it's the same for that on the back. I think you do still need to pivot that on the back, but it's kind of cool if you are someone who's in content creation or you have a spouse who loves to take selfies, which I do. So that's it for Apple. Oh, and then there was very little talk about Apple Intelligence, very little, if any. And that was something else we noted that, being, I wouldn't even say third place when it comes to AI, but whatever place Apple sits after first, second, even third, they made sure to de-emphasize the importance of AI and the use of it in their phones. They promised a new restructured Siri, which I think Apple users have been being promised that for the last 15 years or since Siri's been around. So if you're not into a completely new design or an orange phone or a super thin phone, you may just want to hold on to your iPhone for this year and let all of the bugs and all of the heat management, all the other issues, the potential issues that might happen occur. Let Apple sort that out, sit back, and maybe pick up a phone spring of next year of some sort. That's it
Or
for
I'll
Apple.
just stick with, or
Yeah.
I'll just stick with Samsung and enjoy my AI and not worry about the heat issues.
Bingo. There you go. Let's get back into Microsoft news because that's why we're here. We just want to make sure we made everyone aware of news in general. Microsoft news, we're covering Anthropic integration with OpenAI. I wrote about this earlier this week because Microsoft is again exploring. There is no official deal just yet. Neither one of them have come out and said, "Hey, this is the new structure for what we're going to do." But the fact that they're exploring this is in line with what we wrote about earlier this year, where they're exploring with even XAI. And I wonder if because of political headwinds and current news and stuff like that, that they are leaning less on XAI and looking again more for Anthropic, which makes more sense. Anthropic's cloud model, if it were to be integrated, would enhance Microsoft 365 and shift it from exclusive reliance on OpenAI and more diverse AI strategy, meaning it would kind of pursue what Apple introduced when it first introduced Apple Intelligence, an idea that Copilot would be a layer, a cover for the AI that works at best at the time. So again, you might have, if you're looking for something more casual, funny, potentially problematic, you could have Copilot cover XAI for more consumer stuff. Versus if you need something that's more enterprise ready, regulatory approved, security forward, you'd have Copilot over Anthropic. But Copilot would still be your main visual, your one stop shop kind of thing. Again, we've talked about OpenAI and Microsoft kind of not devolving, but at least being at odds currently with the way that they're both kind of going or adopting this AI future. The again, Anthropic Claude model would suit Microsoft 365 pretty well. What do you think about them, potentially bringing this in house?
It's another way to justify what they're doing. I mean, I think it's what we're going to see, and we're going to continue to see these pivots until we see something that puts money back in the investors' pockets. For a lot of folks, it's about features and integration with this, and the focus of this and the focus of that. But I think we have seen what AI is. We have seen the model that is what we call AI. And I think now Microsoft, Google, I saw something from Google this morning that said they had learned how to run some of their language models cheaper. I think we're going to start seeing modifications to run these models cheaper. I think we're going to start seeing, like you mentioned, you'll have certain answers that are what I'm going to call Anthropic legal like for work, and then you'll have other answers that aren't, for your general everyday use. But I think we're going to keep spinning this around until we find what makes the most money. What will these investors bite on? What will they say, hey, we'll support this, or hey, here's the next idea. Keep supporting it because this is what we're going to do with it. This is what we have in mind. The things that we haven't seen yet. Look, this is how we can sell it. This is how we can brand it differently to make it look, appear to be a different product. And I think, that's going to be in house. That's going to be where they can control it, they can operate it, and they can monetize it any way they see fit.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because I think Anthropic runs through AWS for the most part, so they'll have to figure out a way to work with one of their fiercest competitors in the cloud and in AI in general. But I think it'll be worth it because reportedly, Claude performs automated financing functions and complex formulas in Excel much better than OpenAI does, which again, I think that's part of their bread and butter. It also creates more visually appealing slides and basic prompts and stuff for PowerPoints for reports and things like that. So being able to turn around a deck in a matter of minutes with more thought out visuals is also very appealing. And again, they have more compliant APIs for safer model behaving, which OpenAI, while it's not Gronk or XAI, it's still pretty loose. And again, we're always constantly writing about how they introduce a new model and then have to reissue the old one because the new one has some issues. Um, so it seems like, in the areas that Microsoft wants to sell sell Copilot as far as business is concerned, Anthropic might be the better of the two options. So again, nothing's confirmed yet, but it would be interesting to see how that goes going forward. Speaking of uh, Microsoft AI and going forward, we have another headline about Microsoft is setting up to pay. Um, sorry, where's that? Find our slide forward. I thought I had one. Maybe I don't. Nevertheless, they are going to pay, I believe it's Nebius, Nebius, which is a Netherlands-based AI infrastructure firm. They're going to pay up to 19.4 billion over the next 6 years for access to U.S. and European data center capacity. The idea is that this would help Microsoft scale its AI cloud business, while competitors in Google and Meta, race ahead with their own internal LLMs. Again, Microsoft doesn't. They're developing small language models, and you and I had this conversation quickly off mic about what this might mean for the future. Because remember, Microsoft was scheduled to break ground on I think 3 data centers this year that they pulled the leases on. So rather than making their own data centers or taking the time to build their own, because again, this is once you start building something, it's at least a 2 or 3 year process before you even get up and to capacity where you need it at. You have everything in place. They're just saying, what, forget it. Not only do we not want to spend the money to create our own, but in the meantime, we'll just partner with this one. What do you think they're hedging against with this deal?
Well, I think it's a couple of things. One, if AI goes belly up, they can just pull their equipment out of where they are. I understand that. And two, everybody was in this big AI craze. We had Microsoft was building data centers. I saw where Oracle was building some data centers as well. You spend that money and AI doesn't do what you think it's going to do, then you've got all this square footage that you have got to do something with. You have bought land, you have leased property, whatever it is you have done to build that structure. Now you have data center capacity or an empty building that you've got to do something with. So I think Microsoft may see the writing on the wall. I think that these language models are going to get more efficient. I think they're going to, that's something we have really never talked about, is making AI efficient. We've always talked about how harmful it is on the environment, how much, horsepower it takes just to do basic queries or your drawings or whatever it is you ask AI to do. But I think there's going to be a time and place where it becomes efficient. And if you do that within the next, say, 5 years, you didn't build a data center for, let's say, $1 billion to be there 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
You build it for 20, you build it for 25, you build it for 30, and you have a plan of what the future holds for that data center. And I really don't think anybody that needs to build a data center knows what the future holds for AI. Now, when you're sitting there in your Amazon, for example, maybe they've got, data center space to spare. Where, okay, if we need it now for AI and AI gets, I don't want to say, it's cleaner, it takes less processors to run, it's more efficient. That's the word I couldn't come up with. It's more efficient. And we just don't need it. Sure, we can throw some AWS servers over there for storage, and we've put that space right back to use. I just don't. I think Amazon, look at me. I think Microsoft has had a chance to sit down and think about it, maybe have some meetings and go, what's our 10-year plan? And then somebody stood up and said, what if this doesn't work? What do we do with those data centers? And I think somebody in that meeting went, that's a good idea, because we can't predict the future of these AI models yet.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I also think this is just a short-term way to keep up. Again, if you're focusing on making small language models and you don't have the infrastructure set up, which Microsoft doesn't, to do large language model right currently, and your biggest buyer is OpenAI, and they're looking to, go elsewhere with a chunk of their own capacity. Um, this is how you keep up. You say, hey, you have capacity. We need it. We can't build it out in time. It takes, again, we said 2 to 3 years at quickest to, have these billion-dollar infrastructures up and running at, what they need in order to keep up. Just do it beforehand, and you'll be all set. So it's short-term play. We will keep up with how this deal goes, where it goes in the future. We have another story, which is Microsoft promoting remote work in a memo, while also telling everyone to come back to the office, because, hey, nothing says remote work works like saying get back in the office. The dichotomy of this is a little interesting. Microsoft issued a flexible work update to its employees where they championed hybrid work, but quietly mandated a 3-day in-office per week thing starting February 2026 for most of its U.S. employees, with a global rollout to follow after that. So I don't know if this works for contractors, but at least if you are assigned a Microsoft Office space, you will need to at least be in it 3 days a week. Again, I don't know the details of how long you need to be there. Maybe you just need to click the badge and be there for a couple hours. But while the message does celebrate autonomy and AI-driven productivity, it basically talks about the energy and momentum of what used to be, in office conversations and I guess sharing of data and ideas and things like that. It's an interesting thing to say that AI is helping people become more efficient, while also then get the numbers where Microsoft's revenues have been grossly overperforming, so to speak, for some people. So that means that people who are working out of the office, they haven't had a productivity hit because people are out of the office. So I don't understand what the mandates for. It just seems very odd to say, hey, we're moving towards the future because we want everyone to stick to old traditional ways of working. What are your thoughts on their weird messaging?
I agree. It's weird messaging. I think eventually, whether we see it before you and I retire, I don't know. But I think we're eventually working toward a place where your kids and your grandchildren will see a work from home philosophy. And I think, you've got to, I was thinking about it when you posted this. You've got to let the office buildings that are out there either be repurposed or age out, because Microsoft wants to make get their money back out of using these offices that they built. But on the same token, I think there's something to be said for workplace culture. I think there's something to be said for one-on-one meetings. I think there's something
He's getting
to be
choked up, ladies and
said.
gentlemen, because he just loves
Yes.
working from home.
I think there's something to be said for people sitting in front of a whiteboard brainstorming. They're in the office seeing the body language, the tones being used. I think that's where, some of your problems are discovered. I think that's where some of your best ideas are discovered. Sometimes you're having coffee in a cafeteria with your coworker and you solve a programming problem because it's a different atmosphere, and maybe you talk about it in a different way, and you're not feeling the stress of the code or the keyboard right there in front of you. So I get it. We're going toward the work from home. COVID started that, whether you love it or whether you hate it. That's, COVID started this trend. And, Teams has got to make money. StreamYard here's got to make money. All these companies that, popped up real quick with these work from home products are not going to go away. So Microsoft has kind of said, okay, we're going to try to balance this out. We're going to get you in the office 3 days a week. You can work from home 2 days a week. And if I was sitting here thinking about it, if Microsoft is going to let me choose, I'm going to work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in the office, and I'm going to take Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, and I'm going to work at home, because we all know when you work at home, you're not doing this all day, because what's the old saying? When the boss is away, the employees will play. It's happening. Let's just be real about it.
I mean, it is, but it's also, I think we also need to be real about the productivity, because again, it would be in the numbers if people were constantly just out playing, and
That's true.
you'd have a real reason to say, hey, you know what, our revenues are down because you guys haven't been producing, you haven't been working. I think working from home, most people are actually working longer hours. You start at 7 in
Because
the
you're
morning, wake
comfortable.
up. Well, you're comfortable, but you're also kind of on call. Like again, your boss could call you at, if he allows you to work from home, they can call you at 8 o'clock and say, hey, I need you to quickly do something because you've been working on your computer, you've been producing stuff all day. I know that it's accessible to you, it's right there. If I have you working in the office, you can say, hey, I left my computer at home. I can't get to you. I can't get to whatever project you assign me until the next morning when I'm back in the office. So that's the trade-off we made when we said we work from home. People are now
Mhm.
working longer hours, but they're doing it, they're spacing it out where they could also live their life, where they can do laundry. Because imagine, just small things of, I get up at 6. If you have kids, if you don't, whatever, you get up to start your process. You're in the office at 8 if you're early, 9 o'clock at the latest. From 9 to 5 or 6, depending on what traffic is like. That is time that you're not able to make dinner, do laundry, go to a dentist appointment, take care of your health. You have to schedule all that stuff on a weekend or after or before work, which just adds to your day. So again, if you're allowed to work from home, you say, you know what? I started working at 7. I'm gonna take a quick break from 9 till 11 to go to the dentist, and then I'm back at work from 12 until maybe 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock before I get tired and say, you know what, I made dinner at 6 o'clock, while I was, monitoring, working, or whatever I was doing, I was making dinner. Now I'm ready to eat dinner. I can eat dinner as soon as my kids get home. It's, 5 o'clock. They're home. I'm home. Instead of me rushing home at 6 and saying, all right, well, I don't have anything to make. I don't know what we're doing. We'll figure it out all together. Now it's like, I made dinner. Everyone's ready. Laundry's done. All these errands that I needed to run while I could take time to do that and still get work done. Those are the compromises we made. I don't see people giving that up willingly. I do, to Microsoft credit, 3 days a week isn't the worst. It isn't bad. I understand the people that have gotten used to not being in the office at all. It's going to be definitely another culture shift, but we had that during COVID. But 3 days a week, I think is great. I think we should all aspire to at least 4 days for most people. Currently, there are people that have to be in the office 5 to 6 days a week. Four should be the national number. If we can get it down to three, that's aspirational. Beyond that is even better. But we should at least revisit a 4 day work week. Uh, I'm not going to harp anymore on that. We're going to talk about OpenAI and Microsoft's new announcement, where they have plans for a for-profit restructuring. This was the big contention that we had talked about. Uh, what was this? Earlier this year, end of last year.
Yeah, it was end of last year, early this year, because we started seeing the deal waddle left to right a little bit, and we were kind of wondering which direction it was going.
Correct. Yeah, OpenAI has been itching to become for-profit. This goes back to last year when they ousted Sam Altman because of his plans behind their nonprofit backs to go for-profit. And so they all held a meeting, kicked him out. Microsoft said, "Hey, we'll take you in. We'll start a whole division for you." And OpenAI saw the writing on the wall and said, "All right, come back and we'll figure out some stuff." He fired a bunch of people that called the mutiny on him. But all of that was centered around becoming for-profit, mostly. And so it seems like with Microsoft being the biggest investor, they kind of had a stake in whether or not they should become for-profit, because that gives Microsoft less control. If I'm the only person giving you money, then you need to do, or at least adhere, listen to me more often than other people giving you money. Well, Microsoft looks like they're going to be relenting a little bit of that control. The original structure of the deal was basically that Microsoft and OpenAI, I think, got into bed together for about $13 billion over the next 10 years. Give Microsoft a controlling investment stake in there. Again, they didn't buy the company, but they have a controlling investment stake, and they structured the deal so that it would end after OpenAI paid back Microsoft's initial investment with a little bit of interest. It's only 5 years into that deal, and it looks like they've already restructured because the two of them weren't getting along on terms. OpenAI is transitioning into its for-profit arm into a public benefit corporation, a move that could pave way for raising more capital, which is, again, that's all this company really does, aside from providing this large language model that's been very popular. They just hoover up money. They are vacuuming for money. Where that money goes, nobody knows. Under the proposed structure, OpenAI's nonprofit board retains control and would take a stake in the PBC, the Public Benefit Corporation, valued at over $100 billion. So they're basically paying off the nonprofit people to say, "Hey, we're going to go for profit, but in doing so, you guys still get some money." And so they can continue their research and kind of, I guess, be autonomous when it comes to what they're doing as far as advancing the large language models without having to necessarily provide or benefit the for-profit structure. The shift allows OpenAI to pursue more aggressive growth while maintaining its stated commitment to safety and alignment, because that other company will do all the legal and required stuff, while OpenAI is just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that they don't get sued for it. Microsoft wanted access to IP from Windsurf and AI coding startups. OpenAI tried to acquire it, but OpenAI resisted, and that deal collapsed. Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI also surfaced some tensions because there was a lot of discovery in there. The new MOU is a non-binding, but it signals a mutual desire to redefine the partnership. We will get more details as this comes out. This was late evening that they structured this deal, and I don't think two things are correlated, but they are a coincidence that the news of Anthropic integration shows up as soon as Microsoft and OpenAI are like, "Hey, we're open to seeing other people." What are your thoughts on that before we move on?
Well, you kind of summed it up there at the end. I think this is like a dating relationship. You're going steady, everything's good. You're going out to dinner, life is great, and then you start seeing there's something over here in the corner of your eye that's got your interest, and you suddenly say, "Well, let's restructure this deal and let's go see other people." And I think that's kind
of. If only were that easy relationships.
I think that's what we're going to see here. I think Microsoft may go see other people. I think OpenAI may go see other people, but they're going to keep each other on the side, if you will.
I see this falling apart. I've always been told communication is key. We'll see how well they communicate. Maybe relationships can learn from this. They can watch OpenAI and Microsoft and say, "Hey, sweetheart, that's how it's done. That's how we have an open
That's right.
relationship." I hear they all fall apart because someone's not being as communicative as the other person. We'll
Yep.
move on from that because this analogy is going to fall apart. We have Spotify rolling out lossless streaming. This is something you want to talk about. I'll let you take the lead on this
Yeah.
one.
Spotify and let's see. I started to say, listen at me, LG. Yeah, boy. I'm skipping stories here. Spotify got lossless audio after many, many years of people waiting to get lossless audio, the spatial audio. I've got a pair of spatial headphones on now. So, you folks with Spotify premium subscriptions will be able to, as of now, it's already starting to roll out in the United States. You'll be able to get that lossless audio, but you'll have to turn it on yourself by going to settings, privacy, and then media quality. Spotify recommends Wi Fi connections for this lossless audio because, of course, lossless audio takes more bandwidth. So they recommend Wi Fi over cellular, and it's also available on a lot of our popular sound bars. You've got Bose, you've got Sony, um, Sonos was in there. Let's see. Also, something I wanted to throw out there, they recommend a wired connection for lossless audio. And when they recommended that, I scratched my head a little bit. I said, what have phone makers done a fine job of getting rid of in the last few years? The headphone jack. So that means you're going to have to get some USB-C headphones. You're going to have to get some adapters out. You're going to have to figure out if you want to do that and you want to do it over that wired connection. You're going to have to go to dongle life a little bit probably. But I'm going to be honest with you. I have tried Apple's lossless audio, and maybe my ears are old, but I really don't tell a whole lot of difference.
Yeah, I feel like this is a feature. It's a luxury for most. This is something that again I feel like Spotify had been threatening ever since. What was the other one that came out? That was all lossless audio. That was I think Jay Z ended up buying. Um, what's the platform
What was
called?
that? What was the name of that one?
That's what I'm drawing a blank with each other. I apologize, but it was
Me too.
anyway. It came out, and its whole thing was lossless audio and high fidelity and stuff like that. And it's still doing well. People love it. They're still using it. Uh, whether or not I think you're going to need more expensive headphones in order to appreciate it, have the tech built into it, and you need to find a DAC that supports it as well. But I am seeing more and more younger people with wired sets. Now, again, they're using the crappy Apple wired headphones, but I do see them more often. I don't think Bluetooth headphones are. Go ahead.
Jay-Z bought Tidal, and that
There we
is and our good friend Copilot gave us that info. So here we are using AI right on the
there we
podcast, folks.
go. Dog. Is it dog feeding? Dog feeding it? Yeah. So I would love to see more wired connections. Yeah, I would love to see them force uh, phone manufacturers to take wired connections, more seriously. If they have to do it through USB-C, that'd be great. If they have to put in another port back, that'd be even better. But I think wired should come back. I appreciate it. It's less things that you need to charge. You don't forget these things. They don't fall out and fall into a sewer grate. These tend to just dangle or hang from where you need them to. And I'm not saying we need to replace anything. I think it's just nice to have in conjunction with. That being said, we also have the Windows Store welcoming individual developers without fees these days.
Why is it? Let me just throw it out there. I know I need to talk about it, but why have we been charging developers money to join up to submit items anyway? But as of
Because of money.
well, I get that. But as of September 10th, that has changed. Creators around the globe can sign up and start shipping software without pulling out the credit card, a gesture that was already making its way across the indie community. Microsoft said eliminating registration fees for individual developers isn't just a technical decision, it's a statement of respect for those who create from the periphery and with limited resources but powerful ideas. So I just want to throw this out there. We had a couple of examples here by Good to Create, makers of a wallpaper app. They had active users from 10,000 to 40,000 in a year, hitting 7 million downloads and a six-figure revenue boost. So my question is this. There are creators out there with ideas to write code. And when a creator has an idea to write code, they usually have to spend money on some piece of software, hardware, accessory, something to create their idea. And it could be an idea that changes the world. Could not be an idea that changes the world, but it could be. Why are we charging these people? Why have we ever charged a developer to put an app, to submit code, to get it checked? And this opens up a big can of worms. I get it, because somebody can come back and say, well, the App Store deserves their cut. I understand. And we've had to talk about cuts and who gets what cut, and this one takes 30%, that one takes 30%. We've had this conversation. But if creators, developers have a way of putting money in their pocket without having to take it out first, you get more valuable, credible apps, ideas that can spawn into other credible apps, ideas, and suggestions. I commend Microsoft for finally doing it. I'm interested to see who will follow this idea, because I know for a fact Apple charges, and I'm pretty sure Google also charges.
Yeah,
So
it's an
who
interesting
follows this?
thing. It's interesting to have both. There's obviously a devil's advocate argument for registration fees or for revenue percentages. I get that. There's something has to pay for the infrastructure, to pay the employees to your point, quality check the apps, to maintain the infrastructure and the servers that the apps are hosted on. All of that jazz, anything that incorporates the use of Microsoft's resources. I totally get that. But one or the other, you don't need both. If you want to charge a heavy upfront registration fee that helps pay for the platform, for the Microsoft Store, that is it. But you don't think charge them 18 to 30% on their app as well. Or if you do it the other way, say there are no fees. Anybody can make whatever they want, but as soon as you start making money, then you got to pay up the 18 to 30%. So you were able to start it, you would test ride it and say, hey, I had an idea about a cool flashlight app. I didn't have to pay for anything, and now it took off in the store. Microsoft saying, all right, now you need to start paying that 10 to say 18%, maybe even 30 at the highest. You didn't have to pay the registration fee though. I think Microsoft is, by doing this, taking registration fee, is at least one block down, saying, all right, it's open, it's democratized, anybody can make anything. And if you do make something of yourself, we'll take our cut on the back end of that. And even at that point, it should be much less than 30%. I think they've already changed theirs to 18 or something like that. But good on you, Microsoft. One other story that's more structural things, and another good mark for Microsoft is Microsoft's 365 Copilot subscriptions to integrate sales, service, and finance solutions. They were already doing this. The reason why Microsoft gets a thumbs up in this department, though, is because they will be doing, they'll be bundling it into the core of a 365 Copilot subscription at no extra cost. Previously, each one of these things are priced $20 a month. So now they'll be bundled in starting, I believe, October of this year for free. I don't know. I am still waiting for the other shoe to drop, but as far as I can tell from
that other shoe's coming
somewhere, but at least for the press release that was offered today or offered this week with information, it seems to be, on the face of it, a very great move for anybody looking to save a little bit of money while also managing their finances or setting up some stuff in Power BI to evaluate how a company's doing or whatnot. So again, I am marking this today, 9/12/2025. The Microsoft, you get a thumbs up for this. When the other shoe drops, I may be wagging my finger, but for right now, bundling it at no extra cost, getting rid of that. Again, each one of these for $20 a month. So that's a $60 savings right off the bat for everybody. We'll see if it maybe raises the price overall, but even if it does it so in a way that's valuable to people who may have only had the one of the three things, or maybe two or three things, or maybe all three, and it's still less than the $60 that they were paying each month. Good on you, Microsoft. Thank you for doing that. We're going to move on to Xbox returning to the Tokyo Game Show. I don't even remember when the last time they were there.
I don't either. Well, I tell you what, let's do. Let's ask our friend over at Copa.
He's searching that up. I'm gonna give you some of the details. Basically, Microsoft's
Okay.
making a comeback to the Tokyo Game Show 2025. I believe that will be later this month, September 2020 or September 25th. Obviously, the highlights of the debut will be Ninja Gaiden 4, the handhelds, which I believe will be released next month. Is it? If I'm not mistaken, the Asus ROG Ally X or whatever. Handhelds, Bethesda offering a Japanese exclusive merchandise. I don't know if they'll have a Japanese exclusive game. That'd be kind of cool, and at least being with the times. But I wrote about how this is Microsoft's bid to kind of get back into the Eastern markets. I've been writing for not a super long time, but quite a bit, and this is, as far as I can tell, maybe Microsoft's third or fourth bid to try and include Japanese and Eastern markets into their Xbox portfolio. They've done it with varying degrees of success and failure. They're still relatively insignificant in Sony's backyard, but it'll be interesting to see how they tailor this as not just another Gamescom / appearance / US centric version of this. How they tailor this towards Japan and Eastern markets. What are your thoughts about them trying again in Japan?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think we're in this phase of, we're trying to get gaming everywhere. And according to Copilot, it says the last time Microsoft was there was actually 2024.
Okay.
They announced a strong push for Japanese indie games and partnerships with Asian studios. And they announced a few games coming to Xbox Game Pass. So, hey, maybe they're doing this 2 years in a row. It seems like now that I read this, maybe we did cover something about the Tokyo Game Show last year. But I think, this is just an effort to move Microsoft and move gaming into other markets. And I think the writing on the wall is this: Sony is in Japan. The gaming for Sony and the winning for PlayStation is done in Japan. So, maybe this is Microsoft saying, hey, remember us? We're still over here and we're in your country.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a long road. You can't just show up and be like, hey, we're here, start buying our console. I think this is laying the groundwork for, we have games that your audience might like. And you may never need to buy an Xbox. But if you have a TV, if you're staying in a hotel, if you're on a handheld, if you're moving towards a phone with even better specs, we'll have the games that you want. And all you need to now know is that Xbox is here with the games. You don't need to, have super brand loyalty towards the console or even the audience that was, normally US centric. Just the games, and that's what we're going to be providing. And again, I hope they do this in every region that they're, trying to hopefully have a market in. Make it a European centric one. If there are games that in the European market that are more RPG based or turn based or whatever the audience is, if it's any different than here in the US, make sure that you are there catering towards that audience versus trying to apply what works in one area across a bunch of different ones. So it obviously hasn't been working for Microsoft. Speaking of gaming, we have LG and Xbox Cloud are teaming up to do what?
They're putting Xbox Cloud in your car. And that kind of, when I first saw that, I says, okay, they're going to put it in the car. So the kids are going to be fighting toward the front of the car if there's no screen in the back of the car. But long story short, LG and WebOS are going to launch the Xbox Game Pass app, and the Xbox Cloud app are going to be available in your car. There we go. It's out there. You're going to need a data plan. Keep in mind, you're going to need that data plan, and those ones for your car are sometimes awfully expensive. And you can, of course, you're going to keep a Bluetooth controller maybe, down in that little compartment by the door there. So when you're sitting in Walmart or sitting out in the parking lot at Walmart, a grocery store, or the, shop wherever your wife is shopping, a significant others will be sitting in the car, playing video games or playing Xbox Cloud. And, when they come out, we'll be turning it off and crossing our arms like, yep, doing nothing here, nothing to be seen. But
Yeah.
I can laugh at this. I'm having a good time with it, but I think on long trips, kind of like you see in the picture here, you can tell that the screen is available in the back seat. And I got thinking about it. You remember how we had the DVD screen that was on the back of the front seats? That kind of went away. Then you had the ones that you could buy third party and you could strap them around the seats. Those kind of went away when we got phones and tablets. Well, this very well could be a way to put screens back in the back seat of your cars. I know we see it in the front with the touch screens and the navigation and all that good stuff, but I could see a place where LG, let's use them. Here's your LG monitor. It connects to your car. It connects to the Wi-Fi that is in your car. You hang this over the seat for your children. You give them an Xbox controller, and they don't bother you on this next 5-hour trip.
I
Parents are
agree.
going to buy that. That's just
It'll
going
be
to happen.
it'll be interesting to see the TVs that have it integrated. Usually they're in the fans that have it come from the roof, the screens that come down. So I think that'll also be a great place for them. Again, it's just gaming any and everywhere it can be. It's interesting that they're partnering with WebOS in order to do this because I don't know what car uses. I mean, it feels like you can just do it without it. If you just had a regular tablet of some sort, you put it on the back of a car or whatever. You don't necessarily need WebOS, but I'm sure there's some component that I'm missing. Again, I will follow up with that, get more information for you guys. That last part we have, because we're talking about gaming and it is official gaming day, National Gaming Day, ladies and gentlemen, we got free play days. This is David's favorite part to talk about. I'm going to let him take it from here.
Yes, we do. Let me find where I put free play days in my notes. I have waiting for OneNote to reopen. Folks, give me just a second. And
No
if
worries.
not, we'll get that pulled up on. Okay, here we go. We are back up and running. Remember, free play days is from yesterday, Thursday, September the 11th, until Sunday, September 14th. You got a few options this week. You had The Escapist, Walking Dead. You had Bad North, Rogue Waters, and Imperial. Bad North and Rogue Waters are free to play for all Xbox members on a 2-hour free time trial. No Game Pass membership is required. The rest of these games are heavily discounted. For example, The Escapist, The Walking Dead is just $3.99. As of making this post, it has a 5-star rating. Bad North, I'm going to try to pronounce that. Jotun Edition was just $2.99. It was also a 5-star rating, and Rogue Waters was $14.99, and Imperial is $9.99. So if you're looking a good way to jump in, just have some fun this weekend. I know in some places in the world, not where you live, fall is kind of in the air a little bit this weekend. You kind of maybe getting that urge to stay indoors a little bit. So jump in there, check out some of these free play days. I think there's some pretty good stuff out there. I'm going to see if I can find some time to try a few of those this weekend. Just a reminder, you can get those from Xbox.com, or if you want to get them right on your console, open up your account, open up your subscriptions, scroll down to free play days, and you can grab them from there. Hint, hint, Microsoft, while you're adjusting all these Microsoft Store rules for developers, how about adding a nice place over there on the Microsoft Store on the Xbox that says free play days? Make that a little easier for people to get to.
Yeah, can't disagree with that. If people want to stream with you, talk with you, hang out with you this weekend, where can they do that?
David PHA 1978 over on Blue Sky. And depending on what situations are, I'm going to try to get in a little streaming this weekend. So watch out for a post there to get involved or come over and say hi.
Yeah, you can find me at Happy Hulk on Blue Sky as well. You can find me at Kareem Anderson on Threads if you want to talk about comics or anything like that. Um, I will try to get into some gaming. I've been doing a lot of mobile gaming aside from the handhelds that I use, which I've been playing. I've gone back and started playing State of Decay because my Shadow Mordor system got corrupted and lost all my data. So now I'm playing an old zombie game. So I'll be interested in playing The Walking Dead, The Escapist Walking Dead, and compare the two. I know they're not the same type of game, but they're in the same genre. I've also been playing Marvel. God, what is this called? It's like Marvel MM or something like that on the phone. It's this new uh, turn-based RPG, and it's the artwork is amazing. If you have an iPhone, an Android phone, look up Marvel MM. It's super cool. They've kind of taken this uh, Mystic, Marvel Mystic, I think it is, Marvel Mystic theme and applied it to all the Marvel characters, which they have new designs. The fight sequences are pretty cool. The animation's awesome. The artwork is great. Whoever the artists are working on this project, you guys get all the thumbs I could possibly give you. So with that being said, we want to get you guys out and go enjoy your weekend. We want to always recommend that you touch grass, do something that you really enjoy, even if it's only for a few minutes. If it's cooking, if it's listening to music, if it's cutting the grass, if it's cutting your hair, if it's dancing, if it's screaming in the car, whatever it is, go do it, please, because we need more enjoyment in the world these days. I hope you guys take care.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
From PowerPoint to Teams we call.